Hi everyone, we're really lucky to be joined by Vitae Sports and Warwickshire and New Zealand cricketing legend Jeetan Patel today. Jeets has been with us for many, many years, fantastic guy, got some unbelievable experiences, so I hope you enjoy the interview. Bye. It's great to see you, mate. It's good to see you back in New Zealand, looking well. How are things your end?
Yeah, good, mate. It's nice to be home. Those 2.5 months in England were fantastic, but getting to play cricket in such trying circumstances. But let's be honest, I think everyone would agree that going home is pretty special. And once I got through that isolation period that we have to do in New Zealand, and now being able to just kick back and relax and try and hang out with the kids and just spend some good quality family time leading into Christmas is fantastic, mate. It's nice to be back.
Brilliant, mate. Good to see you settle back home. Jeets, thanks for joining us anyway. Just obviously going a bit of a chat through your career. First of all, Jeets, I guess, how did it start for young Jeetan Patel?
Yeah, I mean, the stories, they start, I suppose, pretty similar for most people. But for me, it was when I was a 3-year-old. Dad was obviously a pretty avid cricket fan. And, I jumped on the bandwagon through him. Whether I was forced or not, I don't know, because I was only 3. But, I followed in his footsteps for the passion of the game. And, ever since then, joined a club early. Ended up playing all through my time at the club as much as I could before having to go to school and into college, where you had to play for your college, so you weren't allowed to play for your club, which was interesting because you're used to playing with a group of guys, and then that gets taken away from you. Everyone goes to different corners of the world, different corners of the city, and then you come back together again post that, and how everyone's improved or not, or given up the game. So it was it was an interesting 15 years, I must admit, of meeting different people. And that's probably what sport is great for, isn't it? Is being able to, I suppose, interact with different people from different backgrounds everywhere.
Yeah, sure. And you're quite a young age. You came over to England, didn't you, to play club cricket?
Yeah, it was. I think it was early 2000s. So I wouldn't say I was young. Well, young compared to I am now, but yeah, that was a great time. Went to York Cricket Club, a fantastic little town. Or city, actually, because it's got a cathedral. Fantastic city, part of Yorkshire and part of one of the toughest cricket leagues, I suppose, going around. Look, it was a really good learning curve for me. It was my first time out of the house, away with no support, and having to fend for myself. So it was a bit of a learn in itself. But to be honest with you, just to get out and play at an amazing cricket ground with an amazing club, and to work some of the grounds and just learn a bit more about myself was pretty special. And I think I owe them a lot for where I've come now, but also the friendships I created out of it.
Yeah. Did that have a big impact on you then going and your career progression back at Wellington and in New Zealand? Did it help?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, and I think getting abroad and meeting different people, playing in different teams, understanding a different way of playing the game. I mean, ultimately the messages are always the same, aren't they? They just come from different people, and I think a lot of the time we get caught up in where these messages come from, and we don't actually get the full understanding of them. But to go to another environment and have to learn and fend for yourself, to prove to others, that you are good enough, and not just, and to yourself, I suppose, was probably my biggest learning curve. And then coming back and being a bit more grown up. I know those words probably aren't synonymous with me, but to be a little bit more grown up as an individual and understand the world a bit better is pretty important.
Yeah, good, mate. And then obviously you hit the traps running with Wellington pretty young age, and then broke into the New Zealand team 2005. How did that feel, Jeets?
Look, mate, it was a childhood dream, wasn't it, to play for New Zealand, to play for the Black Cap or the Black Caps to put it on. And my first tour was to Zimbabwe, which was a bit different. I didn't expect it. It was the middle of winter, so it was a bit of a different time. I was really proud. like I said, it felt like it came out of nowhere. I'd had a good year, but I didn't expect for that to be included in the squad, and then to go away and to play. A lot of the time I went on tours and didn't play much, but to go away and play and just be who I wanted to be as a cricketer was awesome. To fulfill a dream, I suppose. But I mean, that was just the start of where my learning what really needed to go. Like, I had so much more to learn about cricket and myself, and I probably didn't realise that initially.
Yeah, were you in any way overawed when you first got into the team, or was it? I know, I think I was around on that tour then, going back. We probably when we first met, and it was a pretty friendly environment as I remember it, compared to a lot of international teams.
Yeah, like the New Zealand, I think New Zealand is full stop with quite friendly. I mean, very rarely do you go walk into the dressing room if you're lucky enough to do so, and no one will talk to you. I think everyone will go out of their way to say hello and be as nice as they can. But I wasn't. I suppose I was more overall getting on the plane. I think that was the biggest thing. It was like, gee whiz, these are all these guys that look up to and probably see on TV more often than I get to play against. And now I'm on the plane with him going abroad. And once we got there, it was right. Let's go to work. And John Bracewell was the coach. And he was never going to let me just settle in. He was always going to be the hard taskmaster that he always has been. And it's perfect for the person I was. I needed direction, and I've always appreciated that sort of coach. Really, that was quite forthcoming.
Yeah, good. And I was looking through the history of it, Jeets. I think your first T20 game was actually for New Zealand. And again, I can remember going out and watching, and yeah, I mean, it did seem a fantastic new brand of cricket. I remember we got out there, and there was one day internationals, and all of a sudden they seemed a little bit more boring when the 2020 come in. But how did you sort of feel then? You were at the very start of that.
Well, T20 cricket was different to us. Like you said, my debut T20 game wasn't international. It was more of a showcase for us. It was just a bit of fun, to be honest with you. It wasn't. It had no bearing on world rankings, who you were as an ODI player, but it was just this case. It was an opportunity to fill the grounds, put on a big show, and maybe bring some more support to the game. But it just attracted a different customer, and it worked. And what it did do, I suppose, what it has done now is probably created a brand of cricket that's more popular than the other two brands, which is a shame. But the reality is money drives the world. So that brings in enough funds, I suppose, the advertising, and then the following that comes with it to then create the more of a following with the 50-over format. And I think Test cricket's rubbing off on Test cricket, because I think people are still interested in cricket, but quite happy to take an hour off every now and then.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Okay, on to a relatively major step into your career next. You then come over and played for Warwickshire. So tell us a bit about that, and it's quite a long story, but yeah.
No, it's not, mate. Look, I met you, Darren, in 2008 on the England tour. You were representing Stephen Fleming at the time, and we met at a bar in London at a hotel, I think, after one of the day's play. And ever since then, I think we probably hit it off. But you called me in the middle of the night. It might have been early 2009. And I've said before, but it's probably one of the only times I kept my phone on. Usually I turn it off, and fortunately I did, because the phone call came through to say, look, that Warwickshire are keen, and Ashley Giles was head coach, and Ian Westwood captain at the time. And I thought, look, I turned to my now wife and thought, we've got to do this. And she said, yeah, let's go for it. So that's where it all started. Get to Birmingham and not know what to expect, but it seems like such an eternity ago. It was only 11 years.
A lot happened since then. But what it's been unbelievable. I mean, you genuinely could lay claim to be the most effective overseas player of all time. What all the things that happened with Warwickshire, all the things you've won, what were your great highlights of those times, Jeets?
Oh, look, I mean, I did a lot of interviews before I left the club, and a lot of those questions rock up. And yes, you know, you think of the titles, you think of 2012 when we win the championship, 2014 the T20. You know, we go on to win the 50 over, and then we get relegated, which is never fun. But you come straight back with the Division 2 title. But all those titles mean a lot, but it's the small things, mate. It's the winning of 4-day games of cricket with a group of mates, the losing of games that are tight, you know, the tough fought drawns that we've had to go through. Yes, personal successes are huge, you know, within all that, and I had to thank for the club for this, winning the Wisdom Player of the Year, but you know, being able to see other guys that I played with at the same time have the successes they did. And I know it sounds really blasé and quite humble, but the reality is it's the only reason why I've ever played cricket is to celebrate success with my teammates. And that can be trophies. That can be losses, because within that it's a learn as well. But ultimately it's seeing a smile on my teammates and my supporters, and like, I thank them so much. They're probably my biggest wins, to be honest with you.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, I was looking back at sort of specific years you had. 2014 was a pretty incredible one. 185 wickets in all formats. PCA, MVP, Wisdom Player of the Year. I know you're a humble man, mate. You genuinely are, and you're a team man. But I mean, like 185 wickets. That's incredible. I mean, how did you feel? How did your shoulder feel after that season, mate?
You know what? Like now that you say that, now you say 185 wickets. Now I realise how big a year it was. You know, I've had a lot of conversations recently with people that are still playing, or people have retired, and they've asked the question of how does it feel. And, you know, do you remember much about your career? And I remember more now than I probably did a year ago. It's been quite a nostalgic time being able to be in the UK and spend that 2 and a bit months of weird cricket where we sit around for a lot of the time not doing much, and talking to the guys around games that we played in. And you know, 2014 was amazing for the whole club. You know, we win the T20. We were still at that point, you know, first or second in the championship. We get to Lords for the final. You know, it was a pretty big year for the club, and we end up with first, second, and second. And like, I must admit, it was an amazing year. And yeah, you know, you bowl a lot of overs, and you have, you know, there was some good fun in it, but you don't feel the pain because obviously you're so excited about going again. No, it was a cool year. Yeah, and I mean, within that, my first child was born in there, so you know that was another little milestone that we achieved as a partnership here back in Kate and I, anyway. So it was a great year, to be honest with you. It was a great year.
Fantastic. And I know obviously Warwickshire made you feel very at home all your time there. I mean, even to a point where you obviously you stopped playing, you chose them over New Zealand effectively. That must have been a real tough decision.
Yeah, again, same year, 2014. Of course, it was a tough decision, but you know, I think the club had given me, up until then, you know, had given me this security, this love, this care. I almost always only ever wanted out of cricket. You know, you pile so much into the game, and I felt like I just wanted a little bit back, and I was starting to get that back from the club. And it was great. I felt like I belonged. I felt like I was always wanted there, and when I was coming back was when I was leaving. And then, you know, this opportunity comes up to go to the West Indies with the New Zealand team, and we just arrived in the UK, and I just didn't feel right. It didn't sit right with me. Timing is everything, I suppose they say, and it was just the wrong time for me. To send the wife and to send Kate and Nia back to New Zealand, as Nia was only 4 weeks old. Like I've said before, there's no manual with kids, so we didn't really know what we were doing. And it would have been more helpful for me to be there than not be there. So we decided not to. And I hoped, and I wasn't sure if it was going to affect my career with New Zealand beyond that. I hoped it wouldn't. I hoped they wouldn't see it in a bad light. But it also meant that, you know, they then got the best out of the next player here, which is Mark Craig, and I was really happy to see that as well.
Sure. Do you have any regrets with New Zealand at all?
Yeah, I suppose I do. Those regrets are more my own. They've got nothing to do with the team or the management or selection or anything like that. They're just, I probably understood myself a lot better at age 33, 34. 32, 33, 34. And they obviously talk about spinners maturing late, but as a person, I thought once I got to the New Zealand team, well, that's when I look back. I got to the New Zealand team. I'd done everything I needed to do. Now I just needed opportunities to play, but I had to find ways to keep getting better. In fact, what I did was digress. I channeled my skill into one format in white ball cricket, and I needed to make sure I was looking after my core skill or my red ball skill, and I didn't do that enough. And subsequently, I missed out on playing more games for New Zealand or going on more tours. It was probably where I should have been at my peak. But I learned that again. I had to learn it all again, and that's what cricket does to you. It throws different challenges, and I suppose every sport does, but throws different challenges at you all the time. And I had to learn again how to do it all again, and just understand my art a bit better. And beyond that, I think that was probably my biggest lesson is and regret was I forgot where I came from and who I was as an 18-year-old and why I play cricket.
Yeah. Great. And you're just talking about the art of spin bowling, and we've chatted about it a few times. Off spin's not generally the most feared bowling in the world, unless you mirror live around. How have you got that? You've been one of the most successful in the world, Jeets. What sort of advice would you give? What have you done to give you that edge, extra edge as an off spinner?
Look, it's not. You got to do. Everyone's got to do a lot of things. Everyone is different, so everyone has different strengths, weaknesses, and my weakness at the time at that age, at sort of between 28 and 32, was I'd forgotten where I'd come from. I've forgotten that 18-year-old who had a really simple action and got the ball to land on its axis and spin and bounce, and along that way, I've forgotten why I was doing it and how I was doing it. I had my eyes set on white ball cricket, and obviously the IPL was beginning, and all these things were starting to tee up, and I was chasing that little small dream, but I forgot where I'd come from, I suppose, and my core skill and what I did best. So my advice would be to never forget that, never forget why you play the game, and that's what I think anyway, is ultimately to go and have some fun with your friends. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. And it's not easy to say because I'm quite passionate about winning. It's not. It doesn't really matter winning or losing. It's about being out there with your friends and having as much fun as you can, but also how you do that, and then understanding your art. I was lucky enough to have a couple of very good mentors that helped me understand my art. And once I could do that, why do I need to do X, Y, and Z? If I want the result of A, B, and C, why do I need to do X, Y, and Z? And once I started to understand that, I could affect how I played the game and what was required at certain times.
Sure. It's interesting, just going back to what you just said, Jeets, and I spoke to a couple of batting coaches about the amount of players who are in great form in the county championship, for instance. Vitality Blast comes along. They do okay with Vitality Blast, go back to red ball and a shade of the play they were. They're struggling, they look like they've got no confidence, techniques perhaps falling apart a little bit. That's something you see, and how does a player sort of guard against that happening? Because it clearly does happen to players.
Yeah, for me, it's paying attention to the small things. Look, we look at the best players in the world, the Kane Williamsons, the Virat Kohlis, the Steve Smiths, even the A.B. de Villiers, who only plays 2020 now. But these guys, all they do is hit red balls. They make sure that their technique is at the best it could ever be, and they constantly hone that, and they hone it, and they hone it, and they hone it. And when they've done honing it, they hone it again. And that is purely because at the end of the day, it's still a cricket ball, but you just need to hit it in a different area. And that's all they're thinking is, right, okay, test cricket, what am I protecting? One day cricket, where am I manipulating the ball? 2020 cricket, how am I getting the most value out of my shots? So I don't feel like the movements change much. I feel like the movements are pretty similar, but ultimately they're looking at a different outcome. So the processes are generally the same, but it's just trying to hit the ball in a different area. Now, those best guys, they would, I can guarantee you, would make sure that they pay attention to their number one skill, and that is that red ball game. And then they try and expand on their game and work out what they need next from other and other formats, to be honest with you. And that's exactly where I may have worked it out in my own head what I needed, and therefore it was easier to adapt from format to format, which is what you needed to do in county cricket every day. You know, Champo games into T20s, into 50-over games, back to Champo games, and it was so busy, so full on. And sometimes you just didn't know where you were. You just knew you had to play cricket.
Yeah, sure. And again, just touching on the batting, on your own batting, kind of...
Don't much to talk about, mate.
I'm not letting you off the hook that easy. Finishing with a batting average of over 21, mate. There's plenty of actual batsmen who finished with lower averages than that. So I always felt obviously I wouldn't say you didn't take it seriously, but I think you always something a bit of a complimentary thing, and you were so devastating when you batting down the order. I think you broke quite a few teams' hearts, and particularly with Warwickshire, with lots of Wrighty, Barks, and you got this fantastic. You were never beaten. You got, which must have had a massive part in Warwickshire's success.
Oh, for sure.
So, how did you go? Just tell us how you approached your batting.
Oh, look, initially, it probably goes back a few years before that. I never took myself seriously as a batter, probably from the age of 18. Then you find ways to contribute at times, and you might do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but it was never anything to write home about. Then I went through a really, really bad patch, and it broke me. And it meant that I almost quit the game, and because I wasn't enjoying cricket, it was really tough. But I knew that if I was going to get back to cricket, I needed to do some serious work on it, and I needed to face some fears a little bit. So we did some hard graft. Myself, Jamie Siddons, Shane Jeets, down at the base reserve indoor centre. There was a really tough time, but we found a few things out about myself and what I needed to do. So it was good. It was challenging, but it was good. And then, from there it became, right, how can we contribute? And I've always spoken about contributions in cricket. Games are won through contributions from different people. Who takes a 1 for a 2 for, who gets an important 20, who bats 30 balls during a tough time in the game, who takes an amazing catch, who gets that run out of it. They're the things that win games. Yes, we applaud the hundreds and the fifers, but it's the small things along the way, the small contributions. And I think what we did, or what I took enjoyment out of, was being part of the contribution. We spoke about getting 80 to 100 for the last 4 wickets that went into bat. So that included me, Barks, Wrighty, Boyd, Rankin at times. It was, right, how are we going to score 80 runs as a unit? And hopefully one of us would get all of them, so that none of us didn't have to do anything. But yeah, and that's what we spoke about at the Warwickshire group, and that led into other teams beyond that. But look, it was, yeah, you're right. I probably took the mickey a little bit with it. I didn't pay enough attention with it, but there were times where I thought, right, I need to test myself, and there'd be a lot of coaches out there laughing when I'd ask for testing nets, and they'd pin me in my ribs, and I'd just throw my bat and walk out. But look, it's part of the game. It's really getting challenged, and it helped us win games. So great. I wish I could have done more of it. We may have won more games.
Good, mate. And again, just overall on your career, who would you say the biggest influences have been?
A lot of people, mate. There's countless amount of people I need to thank, really. But I've got a mentor here, Jason Wells, who I knew I was 16. I met when I was 16. Sorry, well, actually probably before that. But we probably got really close when I was 16, and he's helped me all throughout my career. Ashley Mallett was really instrumental with my action as a spin bowler, and someone to bounce ideas off. Ashley Giles at Warwickshire. But all the teammates that I played with, Stephen Fleming was huge, Daniel Vittori, and I was lucky enough to play alongside those guys. Like I said, the list would go on and on and on. Longy yourself, to get me the gig at Warwickshire, which then meant we had I had a career, but we as a family have been able to make a living out of the game, which is quite a special thing to say. But like I said, there's so many people I'd love to thank, but ultimately it's probably just Mother Cricket, and I never try and knock her. Like she's always watching, so you always try and make sure that you're doing the right thing at the right time.
Great. Good. Thank you for the kind words, mate. Right, a few quick fire questions for you, Jeets. Funniest player or players you've played with or against?
Funniest. Oh, mate, they're different. Every changing room has them, don't they? But mate, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head right now.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that one. Favourite ground you've played at?
The Basin Reserve.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Most difficult opponent?
Anyone on the international scene. Kumar Sangakkara.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of most talented player you've played with?
Most talented?
Yeah.
Jesse Ryder.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good one. And in terms of just going away from, well, not particularly away from sport, but if you could have 4 ideal dinner guests, anything from even any time or whatever, who would you choose?
Well, Tiger Woods would definitely be one. I'd probably go someone like I'd definitely go Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
So that's 2. We'd probably include Nelson Mandela. Yeah. And we will go someone a bit more current. We'll go someone from the cricketing world. We'll include Ashley Giles, because I'm sort of buttering him up. Hopefully he gives me a job.
Yeah, you're a bit like mate, but fair enough. And if you could go back in time and watch any cricket match or test series that's ever taken place, go back to the beginning of time, which one would you like to go and have a best sit in the house?
Oh, look, mate. What was the show that Fire in Babylon? That was a pretty cool show. I wish I was a boy sitting in those stands watching that, because that was pretty aggressive cricket, but some amazing talent, and some pretty hostile cricket. But it was pretty good fun to watch from here on TV. Any of the Ashes series are great to watch, mate. But that'd definitely be up there. West Indies when they were at their pomp would have been good fun. Especially in England, that would have been good fun to watch.
Right, okay. And if Jeetan Patel was reborn, would he want to be 6'5", lightning, angry paceman, or the Jeetan Patel, the devastating?
No, mate. I'd love to run in and bump people, mate. They used to do it to me all the time, and I don't feel like I warranted it. But look, I'd love to be 6'5" and bowl rockets. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
There's way more money in it as well. He's got way more money.
And funniest player, did you have any more thoughts on that one?
No, I reckon Haddon Dolby was quite good to play with. He knew how to have a bit of banter. Mate, every team's got them, don't they? Every team's got one joker. There was a guy here actually at Wellington, Dwayne Bowden, but no one will ever know him. But he was probably more of a loose cannon than he was a funny bloke. But he'd do some funny things at times.
Right, fair enough. And Jeets, just to finish off, we haven't mentioned, well, you sort of briefly mentioned that. your coaching career's like really blossomed fantastically. You've been doing it a while now. Obviously, Warwickshire saw a lot in you, you know, going back a few years now, which probably a lot of people don't know about in terms of mentoring young players, even back in New Zealand. Recognised by England. You know, it's a fantastic, you know, as a player, you've been coaching, you know, the England national team, which it's all pretty impressive stuff. So where would you like that to go? You know, that's something you're obviously very serious about pushing forward?
Yeah, I am, Longy. Yeah, I am quite serious about, you know, I feel like I've got a little bit to give back, especially right now in the spin department, but ultimately more beyond that. I sort of I definitely have aspirations to be head coach somewhere. Like I'd love to be head coach of the one of the Firebirds, or you know, or of some sort of note in terms of a team. But there's a long way to go with that, and I understand that there's a lot to learn for me as a young coach. You know, it's great right now where I feel like I can be current with a couple of guys, with a lot of the guys at the time. It was awesome being on those tours with the England side, and a lot of success shown early, which was good. It's always good fun, isn't it, when you're around success? But yeah, to be honest with you, right now it's really enjoyable. I love the graft, you know, I love the hard work, and it's, you know, I've always enjoyed doing the hard stuff. So it's always good to want to be there all day, every day, and want to make sure that guys are wanting to keep getting better. But it's finding that balance for me of how do I do that? You know, everyone's, like I said earlier, everyone's a little bit different, and I need to learn ways to communicate with different people on different levels, and make sure that my message isn't always about me and where what I used to do because I used to play, which isn't far ago. But also how these guys want to get better themselves and where they want to go, and hopefully I can be involved in teams going forward. Look, I'd love to stay involved with the spinners in England, but you know, we'll just see how that pans out.
Great, brilliant. Jeets, thanks very much. I'm taking up a lot of your time. I know it's late at night there, so apologies to Kate.
Okay.
Listen, I'd just like to say, from our point of view, you know, what a fantastic honour it's been to work with you for all these years. As a friend more than anything, and you know, I'd say to you and Kate, big thank you from our family really, and from Vitae Sports. But just wish you all the best for the future, mate, and hopefully we've got many exciting times ahead still.
Thanks, Longy. You know, I need to express my thanks to you and to your family as well. I mean, obviously you're always available to help. You know, and you've always been someone to be able to talk to if I run into strife, but also understand that, you know, there are busy times and we can't always hang out like as much as we'd like to. But as more of a friend, Longy, more than a colleague or an agent or a friend or anything more than that, mate. Look, I thank you. Thank Vitae Sports. Thank your family. And, you know, like you said, I'd love to work more with you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jeets. Thanks again for your time, mate. You take care, and we'll hopefully catch up soon. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed a really interesting chat with Jeetan. It was engaging as always, and we'd love to wish Jeetan the best now in his retirement and helping him forward in his coaching career going forward. Thanks. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like the video. Thank you. Bye-bye now.